Welcome to another episode of Transform Perspective with Kyra. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode. I kid you not that before I even started recording, I had it all set up in two cameras because, for season two, I wanted to switch things up a bit. And I started recording, or setting things up. All of a sudden I hear beep, 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 beep. What is that? My camera died because the battery needed to be charged. Long story short, we're going to do just this camera. Not that you care, but I just wanted to put that out there because I was kind of overthinking that. And yeah, here we are though. You keep showing up even when things aren't adding up. My advice for the day. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Don't think about it too much, okay? That's what I should have told myself in that moment. I didn't, but here I am. But don't think about it too much. That is the topic for this episode. Think about it too much, too much, too much, too much. If you haven't heard that song, that wasn't my real singing voice, so don't come for me. But if you haven't heard that song, I don't know, go check it out. Anyways, don't think about it too much. We're focusing on mindfulness, okay? That's what I've been trying to incorporate in my day-to-day life is mindfulness, especially when it comes to overthinking and kind of being in your head. We can live in our head so much, whether we're focused on the past or whether we're focused on the future. You're somewhere else. No matter if it is past or future, you're not present. And so when you're not present, I feel like that is where a lot of the stress and anxiety and just pain is coming from. It's coming from you not being here and now. Of course, you can feel pain and anxiety and stress and all that. You can feel it in the present moment, like duh, but um a lot of times it's coming from like the mind activity and your brain just being overwhelmed and you kind of living off in la la land or somewhere else other than now. And so practicing mindfulness has been very helpful and it's something that I'm like really trying to reincorporate into my life, which I think you should also try as well, even if it's just small things. And so that's kind of what I really want to get into today is really touching on the different like techniques and practices that you can do in your daily life to be more mindful and, so you don't think about it too much, whatever you're thinking about. It's okay to reflect on things, it's okay to think, but if you are thinking 99% of the time and then that, point one is just you being present is like that's probably going to cause you a lot of distress and stuff. So, if that's something that you are wanting to practice and wanting to change in your life, keep listening. If you want to be more present and more mindful, I have some simple things that I'm kind of using in my day-to-day life and stuff that I'm trying just so I could just be more present because there's nothing like the present moment. And that's something that I just keep coming back to because that's really all there is. We make up in our head these other places and moments and things that seem more important, past stuff, whether good or bad, it's not a horrible thing to be in your mind and to use your mind. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it kind of takes over our lives and all we do is live in our head. And so that's why I feel like it's really important to have some type of practice or technique in your life where you can kind of just return to the moment, where you can just be here and be now. It's not something that may be easy right off the bat, but it's something worth trying and considering. The first thing that comes to mind for me when it comes to mindfulness is breathing. That's something I've been working on, but the breath, I mean, it's so simple because we breathe all the time, but I feel like the breathing techniques are helpful, especially when you're doing like breath work or you're just in stillness, like you're taking time to sit aside and just like meditate or do some breath work or just sit still and just focus on your breath. I feel like it's easier then, but when you're going throughout your day, it's like half the time you don't even realize that you are breathing. So that one can be tricky. I feel like I've tried that. But you can also do things like put reminders on your phone or on your watch or write yourself sticky notes and remind yourself to breathe. You may see that like on commercials and stuff, like the Calm app where they have some rain in the background and you breathe, or they have different reminders, I know, on your watch where you can be mindful. Just, really take that into consideration and utilize those tools and resources, because I feel like that is what will help, even though it's so small. Even if you're not doing it every single hour, just doing it a couple times a day will kind of help you woosah and chill out a bit, especially if you're struggling with just being in the moment. And that's something that I kind of realized for myself, is because when you're getting overwhelmed and anxious, it's like, why? And so when you get to the root of it, 9 times out of 10, it's because you're not present. Okay. You're thinking in your head too much, you are not here with what you're doing. And so I feel like the key and the focus is remembering to focus on what's in front of you right now. And so that's been the thing that's been helpful for me, is also just these reminders of, focus on the present, but also focus on what's in front of you. What are you doing right now? So it's something that you can do regardless of if you have time to go and sit still and be to yourself and be in a quiet space. A lot of times that is not really an option. If it is, it's very brief, because a lot of times we're moving and going and doing life, work, school, whatever, whatever you do. You can incorporate this in those small moments, but if you don't have that time, you can do it with whatever you're doing. Do it, meaning you can be present with whatever you're doing, focusing on what's in front of you. Is like, let's say, for example, you're driving. Just be driving, try turning off the music. Not that there's nothing wrong with music, but if you just kind of want to practice being in the moment and present and not so much in your head, you can practice just turning off the music, or not listening to anything but like stillness. And of course, your thoughts are going to get really loud, and all there's going to be is just like your mind and your thoughts. But you can just sit there with it and kind of just like watch it, be observant and just drive, notice what's in your surroundings, notice anything you hear in your car, when you turn on your clicker to turn right or turn left, like listen to the clicker, listen to the silence, and practice kind of just being still and quiet in those moments. That's another thing you can do throughout the day. Trying to think, because I feel like we can make every excuse as to why we can't be still or can't meditate or breathe, but you just have to kind of incorporate it in whatever you're doing. And so that's something that I've also learned, is that you don't have to necessarily set aside time to be quiet and be still. That would be helpful. But like, let's say you have a busy lifestyle and you're always on the go and stuff. You could just be present for whatever you're doing. You can just focus on what you're doing. If you're driving, be there and drive, If you are walking in a building, be there and walk through the building, open the door, like focus on everything that your body is doing, It seems very simple, but also very like, oh, that's too much. But really, it's not. Really, we're doing these things every day. Like with everything that you do, just be there with it, rather than in your mind in some other place. When you're washing your dishes, instead of thinking about the 10 million different things you need to do before you can go to bed and sleep, wash the dishes, you know what I'm saying? Be there scrubbing the plate, or, if you have a dishwasher, cool, but if you wash your dishes by hand, be there with each dish, just be there in the moment. If you're listening to music, if you're hanging out, talking with friends, if you're doing an activity or something, just be there in the moment. I think that's really a great technique and practice, is just being there with whatever you're doing, with whomever you're with. This doesn't have to be just by yourself. I think that's also important in relationships with people, and in life, is really just being present. I feel like a lot of times, even when we're by ourselves or if we're with other people, our minds are 9 times out of 10 elsewhere. You're not really enjoying the moment with that person or in this space, or, even with like your pets and stuff or whatever. A lot of times we can just be so preoccupied, either physically doing stuff or in our minds. And so we don't really make room to be mindful. We don't really make room to be just here. It's just a lot of moving, a lot of action, a lot of thinking, even if it's just mental activity, you're actually moving. So I think those are just some simple things that, you can do throughout your day. What else? Oh, your senses, your taste, your smell, touch, what you see, what you hear when you're feeling overwhelmed and you really just want to be present, or you don't even have to be feeling overwhelmed. You just maybe forget that you're here. You can return to what you smell, what you taste, what you hear, what you feel, and what you see. So focusing on your senses. That's something that I kind of learned in like middle school. And it's been helpful. It's something that I do forget is available, focus on your senses. But it's still really helpful. It's still something that you can practice. That's a good one for when you are maybe like eating. If you're eating some food or something, slow down when you eat instead of scarfing out all your food. Really just be there with each bite and like taste what you're eating. This may sound really dumb because it's like, well, duh, we do these things every day. But a lot of times you don't even recognize that you like exist, that you're actually doing these things. Because if you're living in your head, where you are is like non-existent. You're wherever your mind is. And that can be like a lot. It can be a lot. I mean, it can be great if you're thinking about something that, makes you joyful or happy or feel good. But when you're not, it can be like torture. So it's just remembering that you have the power and the ability to redirect your attention, redirect your focus, and really, you know, live in a state that you want to live in. If you don't want to live in a state of fear or, being overwhelmed or feeling alone, you have the power to change that. And it could be as simple as your breath or, remembering that you have senses and just really remembering that there is this moment and this moment only. Nothing else is guaranteed. Your hour from now is not guaranteed. Your tomorrow is not guaranteed. Your 5 years from now is not guaranteed. That's a good reminder if your mind is stuck in the future. Nothing is guaranteed other than here and now. If you're constantly thinking about the past, it already happened. So you're kind of just torturing yourself to just keep reliving past things or being afraid of the past. This is if whatever thinking is kind of negative and kind of detrimental to your life. If it's something positive, great. If you're thinking about an old memory from the past and you're laughing about it, cool. If you're thinking about your goals in the future and you're very like inspired and you just have this great vision, amazing. But you also want to be here too. And so that's kind of why I'm bringing up these different things, because yeah, you can easily forget it and feel trapped in that. But you don't have to be trapped. You don't have to be imprisoned by your mind. You can actually free yourself by just being here, by just being present. It's just that simple. Yeah, and also, like I said, taking time to be still. So you can focus on your breath. You can leave reminders for yourself on your watch or on your phone. You can focus on your senses throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? Take a moment to just observe where you are. Even if you work in a cubicle, in an office, just take a moment to just like look around on your lunch break. Go get some fresh air. When you get home, take a second to just like slowly get ready for bed. Don't rush and hurry up and get to bed and, have your mind thinking about the next day. Do something that'll help you take your time and ease into it. And then also, my last piece of advice is do take time to be still. That's important. Even if it's just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I usually say like meditation or breath work or something like that. But if that's not your thing, if that's not something you want to do, just sit in silence for 5 minutes every day. Start small. And it's like, a lot of people are like, well, why would you want to do that? It's like, well, I'm talking to the people that, may be struggling mentally, emotionally, and really just want to, bring some mindfulness into their day-to-day life and improve their well-being. If you truly want to live, you have to start with the small things and start with yourself and see what's getting in your way. If you don't want to utilize any of these things and this doesn't apply to you, then that's fine too. But it's just a reminder, because I find myself utilizing all these things like I have, but then you forget about it too because you get so wrapped up in your head, you get so wrapped up in your life and your situations that you forget that there's only here and now. There's only this moment. And I say it so much, yet I'm still practicing that. But it's all about mindfulness, being mindful, remembering that you exist and that you're here. Don't think about it too much. Whatever you're thinking about, don't let it overwhelm you. Okay? Because it's your life, and if you don't want to stay stuck in your mind, there's ways that you can just be present and let life guide you, you know? But yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. That's pretty much all I have. It's kind of like rambles, really, but I mean, it could be helpful. It's helpful to me. It could be helpful to you. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube, follow on Spotify, like this video if you enjoyed it and made it to the end. And don't forget to share in the comments like what you think about mindfulness, what you think about the song by Drake, or just anything really, as long as it's appropriate. And remember that it is not about perfection, but committing to expansion. Also, there's a free 15-minute guided meditation in the description below. Click it, check it out, and remember to have a transformed perspective. That was all really fast.